What up, people? We are here. We are talking the Prospect Watch. NBA Draft Prospects. I'm here with Evan Townsend, my guy. It has been a hot minute since we've gotten together. We've had to get our lives together because this draft is that important. All right? So now we're here. We're ready to talk. But before we do actual draft prospects, we're going to do that a lot more before March. We're going to talk NBA trade deadline. Evan, I know you have quite a few ideas / opinions on potential trades. Some of the ones we've heard early on in this process: Jakob Poeltl for 2 first-round draft picks, Josh Richardson available, Doug McDermott available. Initial thoughts, good sir?
Yeah, these rumors, Ben, these rumors are really interesting. I'm actually buying into a lot of these rumors. I'm seeing it from blogs online. The Jakob Poeltl, like you said, for 2 first-round picks, the Josh Richardsons of the world, the Doug McDermotts of the world. These guys together, Doug and Jay Rich, while they bring a lot of veteran leadership, they're not really difference makers. And if we can just get picks for them and maybe buy out the contracts we get in return, that allows more minutes for Malachi Branham, for Blake Wesley. Romeo Langford has found himself in the rotation and has done very well, defending opposing players' best wings, getting a lot of starting opportunities. And that would have never happened, without injuries or without possibly someone being moved after the deadline. So he's a free agent. So we need to see what maybe he has some trade value. We were talking about before this, Ben. I honestly don't think that, I actually do think that anyone that's not a teenager, that's basically a rookie, or Devin Vassell, anyone else can be traded. Anyone else is somewhat available in the Spurs' eyes. And that may surprise a lot of people that, a name that I did not mention that I do think possibly could be traded. Not maybe as soon as this trade deadline, but sooner rather than later, is Kelvin Johnson, so just for the right price. But $18 million is a lot of money. You have to be a consistent 20-point per game scorer, in my opinion. And he has not been that. So, yeah.
So something you touched on with Romeo Langford is that he goes out and he defends well. The other 2 guys you mentioned, Josh Richardson, Doug McDermott, not exactly known for defending anybody. If you're sending those guys off, ideally you want picks in return because the picks, are essentially unknown. They can be anybody you want. They can be something you're looking for specifically in the draft. If a team returns a player in that trade, what kind of player are you looking for? Are you looking for a wing defender? Are you looking for a big man stopper? Are you looking for a shooter? Like, Evan, if you're the GM and the other team says, we'll trade for that guy, but we're not going to give you a pick, we will give you a player in return, what kind of player are you looking for?
So, the $13+ million that these guys are both making means that we're probably not getting a rookie scale player because the money has to match unless a lot of the team that we're trading with has some cap room to eat up. Ideally.
In addition to that, the Spurs have a ton of cap room, so if they trade people back, the Spurs could essentially take on a bad contract if they want, or what's deemed to be a bad contract, and potentially buy that guy out at the end of the season.
Exactly. And that's exactly what I was going to get into, because when you look at a lot of these rosters at the end of their bench, a prime example would be PJ Tucker, with him not getting minutes, but he actually is getting value. I think he's starting a lot for the 76ers. You would want somebody that is not getting a lot of playing time, somebody that doesn't have any really trade value, because if you're helping a team by opening up a roster spot and giving them that much of an upgrade, the bigger the upgrade, the better the pick we get. So we want the worst of the worst. Give me Udonis Haslem. He's not moving. He's not going anywhere.
He's not moving Miami, even if he gets traded. He is the city.
But literally, just give me the worst of the worst. Like you're mentioning positions. Ideally, it would be nice to have another shooter on this team, another sniper we can rely on. Doug and Jay Rich have been the difference makers on the bench, when we win games, they keep us alive in the second half because they're going 6 for 13 for 3 rather than 2 for 13 for 3, combined. And it's just wide open to accept a Duncan Robinson contract, but he has 2 years left on his contract, and I don't want that. We don't want another. We don't need a podcaster on this team. We need so we need a
podcaster. Sign us.
He can maybe help us out a little bit, get our numbers up, but we don't.
Oh my God!
For the Spurs organization, listen, I'm sorry, but
I will recreate Sandwich Hunter if I have to.
I'm trying to think of maybe some guys that may be free agents this upcoming offseason.
What about a Jae Crowder? He's clearly unhappy in Phoenix.
He's going to a contender, man. We know that. Yeah. I would love for him to go to Cleveland. The teams that he's been on before are screaming for him. The Heat, the Celtics, the Grizzlies. That 3-and-D, just all around intensity that could just be that last. And he's ready. He is not injured. We don't know what happened. All that nonsense going on with the Phoenix Suns that are honestly probably not gonna make the playoffs this year.
I don't know, man. I was on a radio call earlier, and I was looking at the standings in the West, and everyone from the 13th seed to the 3rd seed has between 23 and 27 wins. I kid you not. It is just bunched right in the middle.
Yep.
It's so bizarre. Like the Lakers are the 13th seed and they have 23 wins. The 3rd seed has 27 wins. That's a 4-game difference. It's not that much. That's a couple of win streaks over the course of a season, man. It's crazy. I mean, as far as who may or may not make the playoffs, that part is wild. And I actually think that's going to be a reason why a lot of teams think they're contenders. They're saying to themselves, "Oh, we can definitely get to the playoffs. We're only 2 games behind or whatever." And we're just past the half-point season in amount of games played. So teams are very confident they can get in. And I think some teams are going to try and make a move they maybe shouldn't.
Yeah, and the Western Conference is so jumbled that it's separated, but within the 5.5 games from the seeds that you mentioned. When you think about it, these teams honestly are in a position to not have a lot of leverage in the trade market. The Rui Hachimura trade kind of set the tone for what is to be. You're looking at a lot of unwanted, unhappy pieces on their team, and they're screaming to be traded, that are screaming to be moved, but they're being stagnant. They're not getting any playing time. And you can even look at our roster. Isaiah Roby was brought in as a steal in the offseason. This guy has more DNPs than Charles Bassey. When you think about it, that's crazy.
That's pretty rough.
And yes, Jeremy Sochan has exceeded expectations. Yes, KBD is honestly Pop's probably best friend. Honestly, we don't know how he just gets all these continuous minutes and opportunities, but he shows up and he plays hard. Isaiah Roby could be a guy to be moved, and maybe thrown in a 3 or 4 team trade package. Romeo Langford, Gorgie Jang. Hey, second 10-day contract. We're trying to find a way to get you moved out of here, get you paid. So yeah, ideally. We don't know. Me and Ben don't have any inside information with the actual organization, but we just have a gut feeling something's going to happen, right, Ben?
Something has to happen. The Spurs cannot stay stagnant. That's a fact. All right, so let's get back into a little bit of Jakob Poeltl. We talked. All right, two first-round picks. That's probably going to have to get massaged. People, just because teams are a bit chilly on that. Fine. We've talked about kind of what player you'd want in return if you're the Spurs. If you're sending out a Josh Richardson or Doug McDermott, you are purely clearing out space in hopes, Malachi Branham, Wesley Blake get minutes and they can play, they can show you what they've got, at least in their rookie year, and you have an idea of, all right, how are they going to play? How might they look next year? The Spurs will have to bring back somebody in a trade just because they have to have enough people on their roster, and they can't be under the salary floor, which not many people realize this. Yes, there's a salary cap, but there's also a salary floor that teams are not allowed to be under, and I think you can get fined for that as well. So they have to be above that floor as well. And as many people know, they have a stupid amount of cap space. So getting rid of a couple of guys who are making over $10 million each this year would definitely get them close to the floor, if not below it. So just something to be on the lookout for. But I know that Evan has a couple of trades he think might intrigue the Spurs, maybe a little outside of the box, but he's trying to speak them into existence. Let him know, Evan.
That's a good way of putting it. Just thinking back at the draft process this past summer, you and I are really high on Christian Koloko, who actually landed in Toronto. Toronto has been linked to Jakob for years now. It's just honestly insane. Obviously, he started his career there, former 9th overall pick. People are really asleep at the fact that Jakob Poeltl is the best finisher at the rim in the NBA this year. People don't realize that he's a great, not Jokic level, not anywhere near that, but he's a great playmaking big for his position, for his player type. And those don't grow on trees. We heard the rumors. We actually saw them. People actually tweeted pictures. I don't know if you saw this, Ben, but the Spurs were actually in Santa Cruz, and we were scouting, James Wiseman, the Moses Moody's of the world, trying to see a couple weeks ago that was reported. And I just don't want that. I don't want a project big that has an attitude problem that gets put in timeout, gets sit down to Santa Cruz just to learn how to properly prepare himself for a game. You know what I'm saying? And the Nets, they have. I really thought Nicholas Claxton was going to be available for a trade, but he has exceeded expectations, and he is a candidate for a Defensive Player of the Year.
He has played really well. Yeah,
shout out to him. Miami.
He has, I think he has the second best defensive rating in the league right now, behind Steven Adams. So, with Steven Adams being injured, technically first for guys who are actually active and able to play. But you're talking about Jakob Poeltl. This is a guy who has he has a 16.3 assist percentage, which is a career high for him. And to put that into some more context so people understand what that means, he's dishing out a lot of assists from the center position. He is a hub of the offense at times. He and Trey Jones have a nice game going on, pick and rolls. They have, they kind of feed him at the top, and he makes decisions. He finds cutters, things like that. So it's not just a good defensive guy you're getting. And I would argue that a lot of the, the high level metrics that you're looking at for Jakob Poeltl, his defensive stuff, the numbers may not quite be there, but that's also because the perimeter defense for the Spurs is incredibly porous right now. And basically he's trying to have 8 legs out there, 8 arms out there, trying to defend for everybody right now and trying to protect the rim while guys are just getting beat off the dribble. So his defense is better than his numbers is one thing I would say. And yes, it is terrifying to trade Jakob Poeltl and potentially bring back a project, and then 2, a project with a bad attitude. You're right in that if the Spurs are going to bring someone else back, it's got to be a guy they're willing to work with, that they say either he's at the right stage of his development and he's got a good attitude, or it's, he's already developed, and we're willing to work on the attitude stuff because there are other things he does in the game that are beneficial to us. You're never going to get the perfect player. That's just the reality of life and basketball. But I think there are some good options for Jakob Poeltl, and I know you want to get to it. The one big trade that you want to see happen, Evan.
Are you talking about Kelvin Johnson, Ben?
I am indeed.
Yeah, so I know that, Kelvin Johnson has really established himself as, I don't want to say the quote unquote the face of the franchise, but we heard the rumors that over the summer after DeJounte was traded, that they kind of rolled out the red carpet for Josh Primo. He's out of town, he's gone. And Kelvin Johnson, I don't know if you remember this, Ben. Kelvin Johnson, we were wearing the we were in the Fiesta Blues, I think for the third time. We played the Bucks, and that was when they had everyone out. That was the only game we won in November, I believe. And
that was a rough month.
Yeah, that was it was terrible. But we were winning, and we were up by like 15, 16 points. And at the end of a good stretch, right before they called a timeout, Kelvin Johnson yelled, "This is my city!" Ah! And ever since then, hasn't played very well at all. That is just point blank period. Me and Ben were talking about last night's game where he shot 9 for 20, I believe. I don't have the stats right in front of me, but realistically, that was one of his best performances without Devin Vassell the whole season. And when you think about it, this guy's making $18 million starting next year. That's when his extension kicks in. Has he proved anything that he's worth somebody that should be guaranteed to score 20 points per game, be a solid two-way player, not just a one-dimensional player? He's still struggling to create a shot. He's still on these terrible stretches. Chet England is not walking through that door.
He has had some really bad stretches this year.
At times, it's just not ideal. It's not ideal, and ideally, I keep saying ideal a lot. That's crazy, but Devin Vassell to me is way more worthy of an extension. Devin Vassell next to possibly Malachi Branham. Possibly next to, I don't know how many picks we can squeeze out of teams this trade deadline for this stacked class. But hey, we all know how much talent is coming in. We all know this team is one of the youngest teams in the NBA. If we miss out on Wemby or Scoot, we're going to be another year without a solidified star, and there's no stars that are going to want to come in free agency. So we have to figure things out. And if you're not, this is Kelvin Johnson I'm talking about here. If you're not this guy, if you're not that guy, after all this time, you got your bag, nothing's stopping you, and you're not taking that much of a leap. Once teams figure you out, once teams say, okay, yeah, this guy lost 20 pounds off the offseason, we're going to force him Ryan. Sure, he's going to shoot off 2 dribbles this way. Yeah, he's going to get locked down, and that's just like that. That's our max player. That's who you want. I just can't see it happening. I mentioned it earlier in the show, and it's just like the more I think about it, I'm just like, the longer we take to move him, the less value we can get back, because I don't think that he's going to be performing without much more help. And the more that comes apparent, the more people realize, hey, he's not really worth. He is, but he isn't at times. He's like around the 16, 17, not 18, and it's going to go up. It's only going to go up. So
18 million is not going to be that much in the next couple of years because of the way the salary cap is going to move, I think, one. So 18 million maybe isn't as scary as people think it is. The other thing is I think Keldon Johnson's value is intrinsically linked to Devin Vassell's and Devin Vassell's development. Because Devin Vassell is a shot creator and a playmaker for other guys on his team, Keldon Johnson's value then becomes much greater. He's much better with catch and shoot threes than trying to create his own threes. He's better when he has room to drive to the basket, which he has when Devin Vassell is in the game. All right, everybody. Appreciate you guys listening in. This has been the Prospect Watch with Ben and Evan. You can find us on Twitter, and at projectspurs.com, of course. At _Bornstein is where you can find me. And, of course, you can always find Evan. I believe he's changed it. Just at Evan Townsend. So that is where all of our draft analysis will be. We will be with you guys next time. And until then, stay excited for some Prospect Watching.